lost our whole fucking house.
Yeah. Just reschedule.
Like, you just wanted to go there for your birthday and go to the club.
Alright.
Like, it's not that big.
So, hopefully recording. I intended to get the recording from last Thursday up well before now, but apparently in the excitement over Labor Day, everybody and their dog has been posting to YouTube. So it is timed out on 5 different times and I've not been able to upload it. So apparently everybody is posting their Labor Day festivities and frolic on YouTube, and it's causing their servers to slow down, so I haven't gotten that up, but I will get it up just as quickly as I can. I'm trying again as we speak. I've re-upped it and sent it to YouTube again, and we'll see if it makes it. At some point in time, it'll make it. I will post that, of course, to the content tab on D2L. So we need to talk about today. I've sent the roll sheet around. Why is this not working? It's taking a long time for this to download. Apparently everything is slow today. Our internet is slow. It's downloading the PowerPoint slowly. It took a long time to load D2L just a minute ago. So when waiting for that, I will tell you that today we're going to talk about ethics, which is the topic of my dissertation for my PhD. It was on ethics and marketing specifically. And so it is the part of the class that I really like. It's my favorite subject to talk about in marketing is ethics. And it's the part that students like the least. And the reason for that is that it's really hard. The second least favorite topic that we'll cover this semester, according to students in my student perception of instructional effectiveness reviews, the number one that they don't like the least is ethics. The second one that they like the least is marketing research. Why is that? Because just like ethics, it's really hard, but in a different way than marketing ethics. It's really hard in that it involves what? Research. Math, yeah, research and math, and that's really hard. Ethics involves something that doesn't seem to be very concrete. It's difficult to deal with, and the theories themselves are sort of difficult to understand. So it's the part that I really like. I'm not sure why this PowerPoint is not opening. There we go. Finally. It's the part that I really like, and it's the part that students really like the least. So I get really enthusiastic about this topic. We'll talk about this today and Thursday, and then a bit on Tuesday as well, because what we'll do is we'll go transition from this into marketing research, and I'll show you how ethics applies to marketing research. I'll show you a video, and so you get the 2 parts that students like the least out of the way, at least at the beginning of the semester, and so you don't have to deal with it for the rest of the semester, and isn't that nice for you? But they are back-to-back topics, and they're the ones that students tell me that they have the most problems with, and that they really like the least. So, having said that, that's my disclaimer for today's, Thursday's, and next Tuesday's lecture. But we'll get the hard stuff out of the way, and then the rest of it is more entertaining and smoother sailing ahead. So I want to start with a critical thinking challenge for this week. And it is, what is justice, and what does justice have to do with marketing? Your group answer should contain at a minimum a thesis statement that answers both of these questions. It should contain a body that has 3 substantive examples that relate to your thesis, and then a well-reasoned conclusion. And what I have done here, if you go to D2L, to the D2L site, is on the news items I've posted an instruction document for you for today's critical thinking challenge. And if you click on that, it brings up a Word document, which is this. And I give you a detailed outline of what you should do. So I'm going to give you 30 minutes to actually do this in your group, and then submit it to the Dropbox on D2L. So I provided you with a nice outline there, which you can sort of use to fill in the blanks with what you think justice is. So I'm going to give you 30 minutes this time, so we will come back at, since it's 12:35, we'll come back at 1:05, and we'll start talking about your answers. And I've opened the Dropbox on D2L. Can you all see that? I check, somebody make sure that we got it there. It's there. We'll stop the camera. All right, so we're back. You guys have come up with your
answers. So let's start with the top. Where's top 5? Okay. So what did you guys say? Oh, you know what? I think we're missing one group. Let me get. All right. So I gave that other group. I asked them if they were about finished. We'll go ahead and start since we've got at least the first group here. So top 5. Let's see. What was your answer to the challenge? Again, for those of you who weren't paying attention as I was talking to them, one of the things that I attempt to do in this class is to provide you with something that's going to more closely resemble what you will be doing in the real world. And so a lot of what we do in a college classroom is not at all indicative of what you're going to be doing in the real world. You're going to be solving problems, and you're going to have deadlines, and it's going to be very rushed. So I'm not necessarily looking for perfection in these kinds of critical thinking challenges in terms of voice and flow and grammar. I'm looking more for creativity and problem solving, and then of course with your individual assignments on the article reviews, I would like those to be well-written, coherent documents, and your group project should be well-written, coherent documents, and your PowerPoint should be consistent. So that's what I'm looking for. Is I'm attempting to mimic something that will actually occur in the real world, where your boss will come in and say, "We got this problem. Solve this problem. We gotta get this report out, or we've got to get this product out. How are we going to do it? We've just found out that our shipper is, for whatever reason, backed up and behind, and we have a just-in-time inventory control problem, and you've got to solve those kinds of problems." So, top 5. What did you all say?
We said that justice is just based on societal norms.
Okay.
And that it is judgment that influences us to
Okay.
perceive what is right and wrong. And that these societal norms is basically what influences our ethical views.
Okay.
This should be central to marketing, just so companies can strive to be ethical within the justice system, but obviously that doesn't always happen. There are always bad sides and good sides to it. And one of our examples was McDonald's. They buy their beef from 100% ground beef,
Uh-huh.
but that just allows them to legally say that they are selling 100% ground beef. That's not completely true. But
Oh, it's mostly true, isn't it?
I mean,
There's some pink slime in there. How many of you have read about the pink slime? This is the stuff that they use. It's basically sort of like the remnants, and they cleanse it so that it's safe with products like ammonia, and it's used as a binding agent for the beef. But it's pretty much a beef product.
Pretty much. 50% of it is 100% beef.
What?
So 50% of it is 100% beef.
Yeah, it's more than that.
100% of the beef is beef. There's only 80% in there.
Yeah, okay. I guess we're going to debate what 100% is maybe on this. Okay, so that's a good example. I like your example, Donald. So go ahead.
So within the marketing, justice should, we said that marketers should strive to be ethical, but yet, like with the McDonald's example, marketers tend to embellish, and yet we are all in fault of embellishing on our resumes and stuff like that. So it is just a way to sell our product, sell ourselves to a company to get a job. Just as you're trying to sell your product, you're trying to sell it to the customers, to consumers.
Okay, so I like your comment, or I am intrigued by your comment on embellishing. People embellish. Is that technically lying? Is puffery lying, or is it?
It's building yourself up.
Building yourself up.
Yeah.
Okay. With the internet, by the way, people can find out if you embellish too much on your resume. If you say that you did things, there's making things, and I tell students this, that you should, for every job you apply to, you should rework your resume so that it is reflective of the job. I do not suggest that you lie, but you look at the job requirements and you figure out where things go based on where it makes more sense. What are they looking for based on the main functions of the job? and then you might want to highlight those. And so I don't suggest that you lie. And in this day and age, people can figure out pretty quickly if you're lying, and you can get caught pretty easily. And it may not turn out well for you if you do. But there is a difference between sort of puffery and out lying, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
Okay, all right. Anything else? So I think this idea of norms in society, that's interesting. We'll talk about that. Maybe, I don't know, I agree with that. This is why this is the part that the students don't like, because it's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and students want like an answer. And usually after this kind of debate, there are more questions than there are answers, and that's sort of uncomfortable for people. Okay, the organizers, where are you? The organizers. Did I get that right? Right here? Hold on. Let me move. Hold on. Let me get the camera moved. There you go.
So we think that justice is the quality of being just and morally right. We think it's vital for all businesses to have justice on their side. We think justice is important to marketing, as highlighted by the benefit it brings to the customer. I think if a company uses justice in its marketing, it's being honest, it's being fair in its marketing, thereby the customer knows what the company is all about. I think it also highlights the benefit it brings to the company. If the customer benefits from the marketing, thereby it will create a trust and loyalty with the customer. They'll keep coming back to the company, and there's a really good trust bond that brings up and grows there using justice in marketing. And I also think that justice is important, as highlighted by the benefit it brings to society as a whole. For example, marketing to an entire society fairly by giving them the same access to the products is fair and just. For instance, like businesses provide their marketing in 2 or more languages. It allows more accessibility. When marketing is only provided through one channel, it restricts access. And so if you're more open, you can go to more customers. And so, yeah.
Okay, so you said that justice is moral righteousness. What is moral righteousness? That's equally as abstract as justice is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you've traded one abstraction for another. I like your idea of access. Is that fair? Like, when we talk about fairness, how are we going to judge what's fair? Is it equality of results? You started with this idea of fairness being access. Is that equality of results or equality of opportunity? And is there a difference? I'll give you an example. Equality of results. I'm going to treat you all absolutely equally, and you're gonna love it. I'm gonna give everybody an F. That's fair, isn't it?
No. If I earn an A, it's not.
It's equality of results.
I was gonna say it kind of ties into like the satisfaction guaranteed kind of thing.
Okay.
Because not everybody's gonna be satisfied with the product that you dish out, and you know, like it kind of like, I mean, if I'm gonna speak, I'm not gonna speak.
Hold on. Okay, I'll come back. I'll do what's your
Dedicated market.
dedicated? Okay, we'll get to you in a second. So is it equality of opportunity then? What's equality of opportunity?
Just giving everyone a fair chance.
Okay, yeah, that's, everybody has the opportunity in this class to earn an A. Not everybody will. Right? Difference between equality of results and equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity says, I'm going to present the material, I'm not going to say, well, you know, we can't trust some of you. I'm going to, you know, number you 1, 2, 3, 4, and we can't trust those number 4s, so I'm going to close the Dropbox to them. Right? That would be an arbitrary and capricious sort of, but not everybody's going to earn an A, but you have the equal opportunity to submit the work. So I think this idea of fairness is important, but it's how you're going to define fairness. Okay, how you're going to allow for people to access it. Not everybody is going to be able to buy a Rolex. Rolex doesn't want to sell watches to everybody. But if you have the money, they're not denying you on some arbitrary basis. Like, we're not going to sell Rolexes to the Bolivians because we know we can't trust Bolivians. That would be inherently unfair. Okay, the marketing moguls. Where are you guys? Over here. So I got to swing all the way. Hopefully. Hopefully my cord doesn't pop out. Okay, so what did you guys say?
About justice?
Yes, about justice.
They said justice is acting in a way by using laws or rules to maintain a genuine respect and fairness for everybody.
Okay. So laws and rules, those are important. Okay.
And then for how justice is in the marketing world, mainly our examples that we used are two big ones, and then one that I thought of after the fact from what they were talking about earlier. But it's kind of like the justice. Basically, like, you can't really copy someone else's idea in like the marketing world. And the example that we used for that was Gatorade. It was introduced by Florida University in the mid '60s,
Mhm.
and it was marketed for athletes to replenish the electrolytes and what they sweat out.
Right, so that's an interesting example. Why is it called Gatorade?
Because the Florida Gators.
Right, that's their
They named it
mascot.
after that.
The Florida
And then
Gators, that's correct.
In 1988, I believe it's like the Coke products make Powerade. But Powerade, it's basically the same thing, and what they did was they kind of used the same marketing techniques. Like, they marketed to athletes, and they used I forget what the correct term is, but basically use a celebrity or famous athlete to endorse their product so people will buy it. Basically use the same mold to success that Gatorade had already used, but it wasn't the same because it wasn't the original and it wasn't around as long, and people perceive it to not be as effective. So that was kind of the route that we went. And then-
Okay, so with regard to this example, and it's a really interesting example, this is something that we call in intellectual property law the idea-expression dichotomy. You cannot copyright an idea. You can copyright the expression. So you can't own an idea. You can own the expression. So what is it that Gatorade owned in terms of their copyright with regard to their advertising? It's the actual expression of the idea, but it's the reason why you cannot copyright recipes.
Right.
Because
yeah.
those are facts, right? I mean, like, if you want to make coq au vin, which is my favorite thing to make in the whole wide world. How many of you know what coq au vin is? Nobody knows what coq au vin is. None of you are students of Julia Childs, right? Like, Julia Child loves coq au vin. Coq au vin is the chicken version of boeuf bourguignon. How many of you know what that is? Okay, nobody knows. All right, so it's basically a meat stew that you make with a roux and wine. So it's boeuf bourguignon is a beef stew that you make with a roux and a red wine, and coq au vin is the same thing except it's for chicken. And it's really good. It's one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite things to make. I made it 3 times last winter because it's like one of these great dishes for when it's really cold outside, and I made it 3 weeks in a row. And my family was like, no more coq au vin. That's it. We don't want any more of that stuff. No more. So you can't own, like, there's a way you make coq au vin. I mean, it's basically you make a roux and you put the chicken in and you bake it, and it comes out with this stew-like stuff. You can't own that, but what you can own is you can own the expression. So what do you get when you put together a cookbook? You get the arrangement and selection, the way you place things in the cookbook. So you could put it in by what? What would be a traditional way of placing stuff in a cookbook? If you had maybe alphabetical order, maybe by type of food that it is. You could have soups. You could have, salads, eggs, things like that. So you get this arrangement and selection, but you can't own the idea itself. And so when Powerade came along, they weren't owning, like Gatorade doesn't own the idea of basically this stuff, which is a sports drink. Is that unethical though for Powerade to basically say, wow, they're making a lot of money, for Coca-Cola to come out and say, they're making a lot of money and we want to get our hands on some of that?
No, it's not unethical.
You don't think
because-
that's unethical?
No.
Okay.
Uh,
That's just called competition.
Yeah, I mean, it is. If think of how much Gatorade could charge if they didn't have any competition
Uh-huh.
per bottle. Like, they could charge whatever they wanted. People would probably, I mean, people might not buy it, but they might still buy it because they think in their head they need that rather than water in a sporting event. So if they Gatorade charge $5 a bottle, they could get away with it. But if Powerade's charging like 50 cents or $1 or whatever, people aren't going to buy the Gatorade. They're going to buy the Powerade, regardless if it doesn't work as well, because they're not going to spend $5 on a bottle of Gatorade. So that's not unethical to do that. It's competition. You don't want to have monopolies.
So
Yeah.
people spend $5 on Fiji water, and that's basically water.
Well, it's crazy.
Yeah, and
we all
it's
get
completely,
tap water,
by
too.
the way, with regard to water, it's completely unregulated. There's no oversight of it. They can be pulling it out of the tap and putting it in a bottle and calling it spring water.
Kind of like vitamins too.
Yeah.
FDA does.
They don't look at that. Okay, so the finish line, where's the finish line? All right, let me,
Gatorade owns the actual formula though for their stuff, right?
Yeah.
they do not own they don't own the idea. You could reverse engineer Gatorade. And that's basically what Powerade has done, is they've reverse engineered what are the ingredients. If you want to keep something like that, Coca-Cola has the most famous example. There's something called a trade secret. But in order to keep it, nobody really knows what the secret ingredient is in Coca-Cola. They've not been able to reverse manufacture that part of it, which is really interesting to me. And it's known by very few people what the actual stuff in that makes the Coca-Cola taste different, slightly different than Pepsi. Because a cola is basically a carbonated, caramelized beverage. Now, Coca-Cola's managed to keep their formula absolutely secret. And so you can keep it as long as you can keep it secret, but you have to really watch that trade secret. If it gets out there, it evaporates. All right, so the finish line, right? Is that where I'm at? Yes, okay.
Okay, so as our group put it, justice is a code of ethics that business and society use throughout everyday life.
Okay, a code. So we got, again, that goes along with laws, code, laws, rules, okay?
And the reason it's important in marketing is because of the idea of credibility, of course, acting morally, and the restitution that comes with some certain actions in terms of business involvements.
Okay, so you said restitution. Okay, so that's what we call the deserts theory of justice. Whether we give somebody their due. Does that sound fair? This idea of the deserts, giving you your just deserts. Deserts theory of justice. That's okay with you?
I think it's an aspect. And in terms of marketing, how it would be, I guess you can consider that theory would be such as like the toy recalls that happened. What was it, like the dart? Yeah, lawn darts.
Lawn darts.
Lawn darts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, how that, like those got recalled. You know, there's a lot of restitution in that respect for some people. You know, their products in return getting paid back. And you know, because they market as this fun toy that's super awesome and stuff. And then this-
They were kind of fun. Anybody
no, yeah,
have
they're
lawn
super
darts?
fun. Yeah.
It's all fun and games
Well-
until someone loses an eye.
They're super dangerous if you don't, play with them, but, correctly. So are BB guns,
So are sticks.
right? Yeah, so are sticks. So are those Nerf, like my nephew loves Nerf guns, and we have little Nerf wars. And those you can put out an eye with that, can't you?
Yeah.
Okay. So should we recall the Nerf guns?
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends on how they're used, but this specific product.
What about paintball? Anybody done paintball?
Yeah.
It hurts, doesn't it?
Especially if
Well, you can definitely put out an eye with a paintball, can't you?
yeah,
That's what you wear goggles.
and you sign a form.
You have legs.
Right, sell lawn darts with a helmet
You sign a
and goggles.
liability.
I think that's the
Sign a
problem
liability
with
form.
that too, you know,
Full
marketing
chainmail.
like family, like small kids and stuff, where they're like, one Nerf is like, they actually have, I think, an age requirement of at least over 13 is what they say. But I think that's like the big problem is that like these products, you know, paintball, Nerf are like marketed to a certain age, but I think lawn darts is more of kind of like just the general family. And so like with that being said, you know, like say kids or people getting hurt, like that's a problem.
Okay, all right,
I mean, it's like a threshold of expectations for it being approved.
okay, all right. Is there any such thing as a totally safe product?
Definitely not.
No, that's right. I mean, is there anything that's completely safe? No? That shirt you're wearing is highly flammable. If I bring my blowtorch in, you might want to run.
Guarantee someone's had death by shirt.
Okay, so we've got this idea of the desserts theory. That's interesting. The elastic giraffes are over here, is that right? So let me move the camera.
We said justice is fair and equal treatment of all people in the proper rectification of wrongs once they have been committed.
Okay, so the fair treatment, so we've got another one for fair, and then the righting of wrongs, okay? So when businesses harm somebody, they should be held accountable for that, okay? All right,
Then one of our big examples of justice and ethics in marketing is like a tobacco company, how they know a lot of their sales are from minors, but yet they can't market towards that because it's considered unethical or just wrong.
yeah, they can't even, is that right though, that we limit them, that we allow you to advertise liquor, but you can't advertise cigarettes? Is that fair? Probably not.
I thought you could advertise cigarettes as long as it's like, there's like a regulation where they have to have equal advertising for against cigarettes and.
You can't even advertise
Can't
for
advertise
cigarettes at all
Oh,
anymore.
wait, you don't know how they market cigarettes now? It's called product placements.
TV.
You know, anybody watch Mad Men? I love this because it's about marketing and advertising. It's called Mad Men because that was where all the advertising agencies were in New York City. It was on Madison Avenue, so they called the ad guys Mad Men. And in that show, if you watched it, what are they all doing? They are all smoking. They're, so they just have you noticed the number of cigarettes that people are smoking now in movies and television shows? House of Cards. How many of you like House of Cards? Anybody? Yeah, they're constantly. Claire and Frank are constantly going out and smoking cigarettes. Right. That's how they're advertising. Is basically through product placement. So,
They're awesome.
should they even be allowed to market those products? You think we ought to say no cigarettes? They're illegal.
Yeah, I think it should be both, or both of them can, or both of them can, alcohol and cigarettes, or.
So we should go back with prohibition then again as well.
The advertising would be valid, and cigarettes can advertise, and alcohol should be.
Okay. What about marijuana? Yes or no?
If it's legal, then why not?
Well, it's legal in Colorado.
If it's legal to partake.
Should you be able to advertise it?
Yeah.
Then why do you say no to cigarettes if you say yes?
Yeah, like
all-
what's the difference
Pretty
there?
relative. It's societal based on what you can.
I think that's correct. I think a lot of what we choose to criminalize is a statement of who we are as a society. I think when I used to teach criminal law and procedure, that's what I would tell my students is that what we tend to define ourselves as a society by what we make illegal. And that it is a reflection of our what sociologists call mores, for better or for worse. So, okay. All right, so the dedicated martyrs. Right here.
Yes. We defined it as a sole purpose sole principle or ideal of just dealing and or the right action.
The right action.
Yes.
Okay. So it's, how do you arrive at the right action?
I'll elaborate in a little bit.
Okay.
We illustrated basically the significance of the company's like mission statement, like tenets, code of ethics,
Okay.
like full disclosure principles, and the social responsibility.
Okay, I think this is interesting, this idea of disclosure, giving people the information, and then if they choose to, if you choose to smoke, you know.
Yeah.
There's a nice warning on the pack that says this may cause lung cancer, it may cause emphysema, heart disease, things like that. And if you choose to do it, you've given them, you have allowed them to make the autonomous choice for themselves. Okay? I'll buy some of that. Autonomy is good.
Yeah. And then to elaborate a little bit, you hit it head on with the cigarettes. And then we kind of took it in other places, but I'm going to go ahead and spit it out. So like Walmart, for example, whenever they have the clearance shelves, they discount things at a certain price. Well, the public should be able to know why they're discounted at that price. You know what I'm saying? Like sugar, for example. You know, sometimes if you ever notice, like in certain Walmarts, they have sugar, like Great Value brand, and it'll be really hard. Well, that might have been sugar that might have fallen off the pallet, gotten wet, and then they just restocked it and then discounted it at a lower price. You know, and then they can still sell it.
Probably not,
So-
but okay. I mean, that's, generally speaking, what we call, a lot of what you're referring to is what students think of as being generics. That's technically not a generic. A generic brand would just be saying sugar on the package and having nothing else but a description of the item. Great Value is actually Walmart's what we call a store brand. And if you compare it, they do this with all kinds of stuff. They say things like, compared to the active ingredients in Listerine. And it had better be fairly similarly compared. With regard to sugar and things like that, there are standards with, you know, that they have to meet. Why do they sell it for less for the store brand? Is it because it's dropped? No. It's probably because they don't pay for the marketing and advertising of their store brands. They just put it out there. There's no one out there. For example, at Christmas time, with your sugar example, what you'll see is C&H Sugar running all of these ads. And that's what in many respects, you're paying for when you buy the name brand of the item. You're paying for that, you know, advertising and promotion of it. That's what the upcharge is. But there are other items that you are correct and that they may discount as a result of it going bad. They do this all the time. Sam's has a fairly good meat counter if you like steak, but they will, as things get to the point where they're about to expire, they will say reduced for quick sale, and you know that date is about to come due, and they've reduced the price of the beef to deal with that. It's still technically safe. They're not like Dye for Less, which doesn't do that, and they spray some dye on their meat, and you know, you may get E. coli or not, I don't know. So TDT, I guess I'm out of time, so I will stop there. We'll finish this next time, and we'll talk about some theories of ethics, and then we'll move on to marketing research and ethics, and we'll look at a video.
We have one person, I think he's on the slide.